We have 11 amazing restaurants featuring a wide variety for every price range and appetite. South Point's Garden Buffet has something for everyone at unbeatable prices. Or, if hunger strikes in the middle of the night, join us at Coronado Cafe. The American menu offers breakfast, lunch, or dinner 24 hours a day, plus a Chinese kitchen for authentic Chinese dishes from 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. From steak and eggs to wonton soup, it's fast and friendly service 24/7. When you need a quick pick-me-up, you can find it at our state-of-the-art Starbucks just inside the main South Point entrance. Order ahead with the Starbucks app for easy mobile order pickups. Or enjoy your favorites in the relaxing dining area anytime, day or night. If you love Mexican food, Baja Miguel's has all of your south of the border favorites. There are dozens of classics to choose from, like fajitas, ceviche, chimichangas, tacos, and more. And for spirit lovers, Baja's colorful non-smoking tequila bar is right outside.
It's Sports by the Book at the South Point Studio. Here's Jeff Parles and Alex White.
Welcome in. It's Sports by the Book here on a Saturday. Happy to be with you, Jeff Parles, Alex White. Thrilled to be with you as always. It is a small college football card today, but a week from today, we'll have one quarterfinal down. It's not even the quarterfinals. First round game down in the college football playoff, and we'll have next Saturday will be 3. We get Paul Stone to preview all that in about 15 minutes, Alex.
Very excited. Paul Stone joining us in 15, and we'll talk about all 4 of those games and see if he likes anything in the FCS as well, and maybe any bowl games, which we know it's a lot tougher to handicap these bowl games these days, but a full card in other sports as well. I'm excited about these 2 NBA games that will be here in Las Vegas. Full card for NHL, only 2 teams not playing, and some college basketball. So it's another great Saturday to bet on some sports, Jeff.
Always is on these Saturdays. So let's get to it. Let's start off, Alex, with America's game, Army-Navy, Landover, Maryland. Home of the Washington Commanders gets the game here this year. And right now we're going to kick it off here, Alex, with a game that has been bet all over the darn map here at the South Point. We'll start off with Army as a 5-point favorite in this game, as high as 7, down to 6.5 at the moment. The total's the interesting one. I can't remember an Army-Navy game, at least in recent memory, that was totaled higher than the mid to low 30s. This one's been open at 40.5, now 39.5. There's some 40 in the market as well. Are we betting this game under on principle, Alex, or is this just one of those, these offenses are much better? Of course, Bryson Daly had the most rushing touchdowns of any quarterback in the nation. Navy looked really good until their season kind of fell flat the last 5 weeks. It should be a fun one, as it always is in this matchup. As
you brought up, I was shocked to see that he did add 4 rushing touchdowns that game against Tulane in Bryson Daly, and he tied Ashton Genty for most rushing touchdowns in the country this season. So I was very impressed by that. But starting with the total, I do like the under here if you can get under 40. You and I sat right here watching that Army UTSA game, and Army took half a quarter in one drive. So we know both of these teams, they take their time, they run the football often, and when 2 teams like that match up against each other, I don't care how different the triple option was this year for both teams, they're going to run the clock, and it's going to be tough to get over this 40, I think. So not my best play on the game, but if you made me bet the total, it would be an under for me at 40.
I'm going to probably bet the under as well, but I'll just throw this out there. And again, if you look at the Commander-in-Chief games this year, Army Air Force, easy under. Remember, though, that was the game where, for Army, Bryson Daly didn't play. That was when he was hurt. That was 20-3. I actually even thought Air Force might have been able to hang in there, but Air Force was so inept on offense in that game that it didn't matter. When Air Force played Navy, that did get the 41 total points, and it did go over the total. Now, granted, That was at the beginning of the year when Air Force, remember, Air Force for about the first 7 weeks of the season was as bad as anyone at the FBS level. And Navy put up 34 in that game and averaged 7 yards per play. You don't see those type of numbers in the Commander-in-Chief games. Now, you can't take too much from that because, again, Air Force was brutal early in the season in that Army-Air Force game. Army didn't have Daly in that one. But this is just look at the history of this game. Remember, the only reason we've gotten overs in this game over the last half decade was because the games went to overtime. It's the only reason these games went over the total. And as good as Army's offense is, I still think this under is still good, even with the fact I'm with you, Alex. Find that 40. Find that best number out there. And unlike a lot of single window games where the public will come in and bet the darn game over, they won't do that in this game. They'll come in and bet the game under. So tread carefully. Don't go lower than 40. You can find it. It is readily available here in Vegas, the 40, just not here at the South Point.
I do like the side, though, here, and I really like the dog. I was hoping I would see a 7 again, but I've already bet the 6.5 here with Navy. I really think they can hang in this game, and I know how good Army looked, especially in that championship game against Tulane, but I think that it was really a benefit of the cold as well. I think they were very fortunate. I mean, not fortunate. They worked. They earned that spot to be able to host that championship game, but they definitely took advantage there and did what they do best, ran the football very well all over Tulane. But Navy has an extra week to prepare. If you remember, they were undefeated for majority of the season, just like Army, until they did hit Notre Dame and then went down a bad spiral there, kind of ruined their season. But Blake Horvath is back. He did miss that ECU game. I think these two match up well with one another. I think 6.5 is too many points here, so I like the dog in this one. That's my best bet. I would lean to the under. I really like the 6.5 here with Navy.
So, Alex, I just want to give you this real quick. The last time Army and Navy reached the 40s, do you want to guess? The last time there was a game in the 40s between these two teams?
What do we have?
No guess?
No guess.
2013.
Okay.
So over a decade ago was the last time we were in the 40s with this matchup. That was in the midst of Army. Again, Army was really just not a good football program for a solid amount of time, for about 20 years at the beginning of the 2000s before Monken came in and has really turned things around. That was in the midst of Navy's streak where they won
14.
From 1999 through 2015. They only lost one time to Army, and that was in 1999. Other than that, Navy was really, I mean, the margins here were at 34-7 was that day in 2013. I mean, Navy was winning by multiple scores all about 2 times in that stretch. So they were really, the shoe's on the other foot now in this rivalry. I'm going to wait in game on the side because if Navy gets up, I want to come back with Army at a better number. That would be the only way I'd look to play this. Now, if you get early, if you get an opening drive touchdown if the drive's less than 5 minutes, you could also go under in game as well.
Yes.
So there'll be a lot of fun things in this game across the board with Army and Navy. Fun one. Hey, look, it's America's game. It's the pageantry is amazing as it always is, and it's 365 days of bragging rights. And you know what? For Army, who has had basically their best year since the 40s, you cap this thing off. You go 12-1. You get a bowl game. You go 13-1 at Army. That's unheard of. What Jeff Monken has done this year, especially in this era of college football. It's crazy that Army's been as good as they are with a conference championship to boot. But if Navy beats them, almost like Ohio State and Michigan, everyone's going to remember,
right.
Yeah, you had this great season, but you lost to Navy at the end.
It is very true. It is interesting you say that's the last time it hit 40 because you brought up the fact that there have been overtime games, which is a little scary, but even it was 2020, right?
So the last overtime game was 21. 20-17 was the final. Remember, that total closed 32.5. So that was just, again, we had this run where these totals were like, they were, I don't want to call them Iowa totals because we had an Iowa total in the 20s last year, but they're pretty darn close. And when it comes to that, we'll get Paul's thoughts on this game in about 7 minutes from now when he hops on the show here this morning. All right, there is one other FBS game today. and it is the Salute the Veterans Bowl. A week earlier than usual to get the bowl games going. This is your nightcap after Army-Navy's done. It's South Alabama and Western Michigan. Throw out the record books when the Jaguars and the Broncos do battle here, Alex. It's been all about the Jaguars of South Alabama, though, from 7 to 9.5, 58.5. And Alex, we've talked about this a lot last year. I brought it up again yesterday. Just be aware of what you're betting in these bowl games that aren't playoff games. The transfer portal. Now, for this game, you don't have to worry about guys sitting out for the NFL, but you do have to worry about the portal with every single game in this bowl season, and just tread carefully. And all I'll say is, once again, if you bet South Alabama -7, which is amazing closing line value in this game, and South Alabama wins by 4, don't be too aggravated here. Bowl games are now as close to random betting generator as you can possibly get at this point for betting college football, Alex.
Well, the other thing is you have to be careful because that is a great bet. I did make South Alabama 9 here, so I wish I would have jumped in on the 7, but you just really don't know, right? And you saw earlier in the week, Cal was a 4-point favorite, and now they've dropped down to a 1.5. So things can move, and they don't necessarily always move your way. So it is kind of better to wait day before day of to know who is playing. I like South Alabama in this one. We do have to make sure Gio Lopez is playing, who was injured in the last regular season game, but it's looking like he is on track to play quarterback for the Jags there. But their star running back or number 1 running back in Fluff Bothwell, true freshman, leading rusher, 832 yards on the year, 13 touchdowns. He is in the transfer portal. That doesn't mean he is officially opting out of this game, but just something to keep an eye on there too when you're laying a big number like this in the bowl game.
It is again, these bowl games are going to be very difficult. And it's a shame because for a lot of bettors, bowl season was the best betting opportunity of the whole year, basically, for college football. Now it's like, well, can I really make a bet more than 24 hours before the game starts? And then you risk a scenario like exactly this. You risk a scenario where you just said, and you made this game right where it is right now, and this thing opened 7.
Yeah.
It was there for about 24 hours, but how can you fully get there without knowing, all right, well, you know what, maybe 6 Jaguars will hit the transfer portal in the next 24 hours with the portal open. They really need to change the transfer portal rules in college football. They really need to just push it back 1 month. Push it back 1 month. Push it back to January 7th. Push it back there. I get why they do it. They want to get people in for the second semester. I understand it, but it's you have more players playing in these bowl games with a transfer portal that's pushed back.
Yeah.
I get the academic reasons. Yes, I understand that. You want the kids in for the second semester without any issues, but it would make for better bowl games if that portal was pushed back 1 month.
Did you see Dillingham saying that he is encouraging, his non-starters, if they want to be in the transfer portal?
Well,
jump in and get them.
I think he has the right attitude.
I do too.
I think he is. It's weird because, again, so for Arizona State's a little interesting. You're one of the 12 that can still win the darn thing. You're still you're in the playoff, but I forget who did this last year. Someone else did this in the playoff last year. I don't remember if it was Sarkisian or if it was DeBoer at Washington, where basically it's like, okay, if you want to go in the portal, go in the portal. But if you're going to be here committed all the way through this playoff run.
Yep.
And then even if you decide on where you're going to go next, just be fully committed to the playoff run, which is the way it's got to be.
I agree.
At this point. And again, Arizona State was 1,000 to 1 to win the college football championship behind us entering the season. Not anymore. As they await the winner of Texas and Clemson in round 1 in the quarterfinal. Arizona State I will say, we didn't really bring up the seeding much, Alex. I'm a little bit surprised the committee, well, I'm not surprised, but the way the resume stacked up for Arizona State versus Boise State, Arizona State should have been ahead of Boise, but I'm not surprised that it ended up that way. And for Arizona State, instead of going I think it's 12 miles from Tempe to Glendale. Yeah, you're pushing about 2,500 going from Tempe all the way out to Atlanta against the Georgia Bulldogs in this one. I just want to bring this up real quick because this is a bowl game, and I know it's in the pick. If you're in a pick'em league, especially on the fourletternetwork.com, it shows up. So I just want to bring this up. It's South Carolina State and Jackson State. Just bringing this up yesterday, Vinny said this was a quick mover, and it was. From 1 to 3, almost immediately when this was opened 2 days ago by Chris here at the South Point, and has been stuck on 3 now for 24 hours. You and I don't do a ton of FCS handicapping. The only thing that we brought up is I was upset happy this year at FCS, and quite frankly, I think we're going to start seeing that moving forward. I have no play on this game, but I understand the move. I understand why people bet South Carolina State here based off my short research on this game.
Yeah, haven't really followed either of these teams. So like you mentioned, though, I mean, it has been a lot of dogs covering. So I kind of agreed with the book at that 1. That 3 is kind of tempting, but nothing for me in that game.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, our good friend, one of the best to do it in college football handicapping, Paul Stone, will join us next. His thoughts on the college football playoff, Army, Navy, and more right here on Sports by the Book on a Saturday morning.
We have 11 amazing restaurants featuring a wide variety for every price range and appetite. South Point's Garden Buffet has something for everyone at unbeatable prices. Or if hunger strikes in the middle of the night, join us at Coronado Cafe. The American menu offers breakfast, lunch, or dinner 24 hours a day, plus a Chinese kitchen for authentic Chinese dishes from 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. From steak and eggs to wonton soup, it's fast and friendly service 24/7. When you need a quick pick-me-up, you can find it at our state-of-the-art Starbucks just inside the main South Point entrance. Order ahead with the Starbucks app for easy mobile order pickups. Or enjoy your favorites in the relaxing dining area anytime, day or night. If you love Mexican food, Baja Miguel's has all of your south of the border favorites. There are dozens of classics to choose from, like fajitas, ceviche, chimichangas, tacos, and more. And for spirit lovers, Baja's colorful non-smoking tequila bar is right outside.
Welcome back in at Sports by the Book, South Point Studio. We're thrilled to be with you as we always are here on these Saturdays, and now we're thrilled to bring in a guy who I know had the better of Chris and Vinny on some games of the year. BYU, Arkansas, some candidates that beat the fellas behind us. One of the best to do it in college football handicapping industry. Our good friend Paul Stone with us right now. Paul, thank you for being with us today. And let's just hop right into it. America's game right out of the chute. Army and Navy behind us at 6.5 with a total of 39.5. There's actually a 6 in the market here in Vegas now. There's a 40 on the total. What way are we looking here in Army and Navy with the most combined wins between these two teams ever in this matchup?
Yeah, good to be on with you and Alex, Jeff. Appreciate the opportunity. I had the opportunity actually to attend this game 2 years ago when it was played in Philadelphia. So it's a special game. Put it on your bucket list for sure. But these teams came out of the gate hot, obviously. Navy gets out to a 6-0 start. Army to a 9-0 start. Both teams' dream run ended by Notre Dame in dramatic fashion. But I believe Army's overall body of work, especially since their Notre Dame loss, is superior to that of Navy. They rebounded, beat Texas San Antonio 29-24. And then this past Friday, defeated Tulane 35-14 in the American Athletic Conference championship game. Love their quarterback, Bryson Daly. Leads the nation in rushing touchdowns with 29 rushing touchdowns. He's rushed for 1,480 yards this season, 5.6 yards per carry, averages over 11 yards per pass attempt. Like Army today, the underdog has covered 8 of the last 10 games, but I just think Army's a superior team. Think they're going to move the ball on Navy, like Army -6 or 6.5 over Navy today.
Paul, we've seen this total actually bump up here. People are betting the over because of the triple option that we've seen this year with these two teams. Are you in agreement with that, or would you be looking at the under here? There are some 40s out there at some shops.
Yeah, I guess you can't teach an old dog new tricks, Alex. I like the under. I just count that under train here. And one thing, I know Blake Harvath, he's had some injury problems. He's Navy's quarterback. He is expected to go today, close to 100%. But Navy, after they lost to Notre Dame, they got beat by Rice 24-10. Also lost to Tulane 35-0. In those two games, Navy only averaged 3.2 yards per carry. So if they only average 3.2 yards per carry against Rice and Tulane, Army's probably going to defend it pretty well because Army sees it every day in practice. They're very accustomed to the eye candy and all the motion and misdirection and so forth. So I'm going to stick with the under. I do have a small play as well on the under 40 in this game.
Paul, real quick on to the bowl game tonight. It's gone from 7 to 9.5 with South Alabama laying it against Western Michigan. If you have a play on this game, what would you look at? But more importantly for me, how do you handle the regular bowls, non-playoff bowls now in this era of the transfer portal? And when you get the bigger bowl games with better teams, guys opting out because they're going to the National Football League?
I'll tell you where Jeff, it's what I call a fundamental handicap or a situational handicap where you're looking at statistical data or perhaps situational scheduling and so forth. The bowls are strictly a informational handicap, and the information is who's in and who's out, and it's really difficult to determine. So, I don't have a place game. If somebody's got to have a play, they might make a small one on the underdog. That's probably the safe way to go in some of these lower games.
All right, let's get into it. We've got 4 college football playoff games next weekend. I'm going to start off with the Friday game. Incredible year here for Indiana and Kirk Cignetti, and now they get in-state rival Notre Dame. Can you make a case here for the dog? They're getting 7.5. Notre Dame really just has to take care of business, right? They have a pretty easy path. I don't want to say easy, but they are pretty fortunate in their seeding. So Notre Dame 7.5, total 51.5. What are you doing in this one?
Yeah, I like Notre Dame here. I said it earlier this week. I don't think Gene Hackman's walking through that door for the Indiana Hoosiers next Friday night at Notre Dame Stadium. I think Notre Dame's a superior team. They lose in week 2, maybe the most stunning upset of the entire season, losing to Northern Illinois as a 28-point favorite. But they've won 10 straight since that loss by an average of almost 30 points. Riley Leonard, he's playing well. Notre Dame has a great defense. They're plus 16 in turnover margin. And then their only other opportunity against a big-name opponent, Indiana flopped. Jeff, I know you went to Mizzou, so I'm going to apply kind of a show-me approach to this game. Until Indiana shows me that they belong on this big stage, I'm going to probably be fading them. Give me Notre Dame minus the points.
I would love to see a 7 at some point across the industry here, Paul, because that would be a flat 7. That is because Circa right now is 7 minus 120. Because I'm with you, I just think Notre Dame just a much better football team in this one. And look, Indiana, regardless, no one expected them. They were some ridiculously bloated numbers, some even into 4 figures to 1. To even just make the darn playoff. Forget being a national champion, but an incredible year for Cignetti right out of the gate there at IU. All right, let's go to Penn State and SMU next, Paul. This is, again, there was a lot of controversy. Should SMU be in at all? They are. Credit to Rhett Lashley and company for getting in. A team that moves from a non-power conference to a power conference, and they get in to take on Penn State, who, look, won 10 games in the regular season, but didn't really beat anyone. The two best opponents they played, Ohio State beat them, Oregon beat them. It's 8.5 right now at the South Point with a total of 54. Penn State, of course, home field advantage in State College with this noon local time start on that Saturday.
Yeah, a week from today, Jeff. I just really, I'm conflicted on this game. Penn State obviously has not thrived against top 5 opposition under James Franklin. That's been well chronicled. But SMU is not a top 5 team. They're a little bit outside that, tier of opponent. And, it could be the weather, could be a factor here. It could be cool. It could be an advantage to the Nittany Lions. I think the number's about right. I was very impressed with SMU's fight against Clemson in the ACC championship game. They fell behind, I think, by 17 points. And if they don't stage that comeback and get beat on that last second field goal, I don't think they make the playoff. I think the committee would have went with Alabama had they not shown that fight. So SMU did some great things to get to this point, but just don't have a big feel on this particular game.
I'm with you. I agree with that. And I was very impressed with that. I was fortunate. So I was on Clemson playing house money, not really supposed to be in that championship game. And I was fortunate to get there with them. Now it's kind of a different animal going up against Texas. What do you think about this with the Longhorns laying 11 at home against Clemson?
Yeah, Clemson, it's not a unique perspective or position, Alex, to say that this is not one of Dabo Swinney's greatest teams. It's certainly not like the teams of 4 and 5 years ago that were challenging for and winning national championships regularly. But I've got a correlated position on this game. I've taken the underdog in Clemson. I think it's now pretty much universally 10.5. I took 11, but can still recommend Clemson plus 10.5. Also took under 52, but I can also recommend the current under 51.5. And it's just based, one, on Texas's great defense. I think they have the best defense in all of college football, elite talent at all 3 levels, at the top of the statistical categories in all the key statistical categories. Scoring defense, 12.5 points per game, only give up 3.8 yards per play. So they are tough defensively, but their offense has kind of run out of steam the second half of the season. They don't have the vertical passing game that they thought they might have at this stage. And also, they're not running the ball and they're not scoring the ball effectively in the red zone, only averaging less than 2 yards per carry in the red zone this season. And Bert Auburn, their formerly reliable kicker, only 6 of 13 on field goals of 40 yards or more. I like Clemson plus 10.5 and under 51.5 in that game against the Longhorns.
Let's go to the last one of the first weekend, Paul, and that is the Buckeyes hosting Tennessee. There are a lot of tickets on resale available. I think there's going to be a lot more orange than we would have expected in the shoe on that Saturday night. Buckeyes are 7.5. They opened 7, went to 8, now back to 7.5 here at the South Point with a total of 47 for, an intriguing game with the winner getting the number 1 seed Oregon in the Rose Bowl in the following round.
Yeah, this is an intriguing game, and I know there was some sharp money earlier in the week on the Tennessee Volunteers plus the points. I kind of look at the total here, and I like the under 47, Jeff. Both these quarterbacks, kind of still have the training wheels on. I think both head coaches and coaching staffs are going to try to keep from putting these quarterbacks in harm's way. You look at Ohio State's last game, Will Howard, who had interception problems at Kansas State. He certainly carried those over to his only season this season in Ohio State. In that Michigan game, he throws 1 interception deep in his own territory, leads to a Michigan score, and then throws another one deep in Michigan territory, which negates a scoring opportunity for the Buckeyes. So I think they're going to play it close to the vest. A lot of running game, Tennessee with Dylan Sampson, Ohio State with Travion Henderson and company, and both lean on those very talented defenses, try to win a close hard-fought game, first one to 23 wins. I like under 47 in that game.
Paul, I really do like this 12-team playoff that we have and how it's really opened it up for other teams that even have a chance to be in this position. I do expect some chaos. I just don't really know where we're going to get it. Of those 4 games, which dog could you see winning outright?
As far as winning the first round game, probably, even though, I'm kind of torn on the game, SMU just seems to have some magic. I mean, Kevin Jennings at quarterback, he's just been a magician all year.
Yep.
I kind of think SMU could beat Penn State in that game. And to win it all, I don't know if that was part of the question, but I got a ticket on Notre Dame at 12-1. I think they're still available maybe at 10-1. But I think in a wide open year, somebody could come off the pace and win the entire thing. I think Notre Dame's as good of a choice as any. And I like the Irish, especially at plus 10-1 or better.
Paul, I apologize in advance if Notre Dame doesn't win it because I have the same ticket as you. I took 12-1 right as this thing was revealed because that thing moved pretty quickly after the matchups got revealed. And that's important. I just want to bring this up real quick because we haven't mentioned any of the bye teams. But how do you look at Georgia right now? Who, again, they would get the winner of Notre Dame and Indiana in the Sugar Bowl. But, I mean, Carson Beck seems that injury, I know they're playing it close to the vest, but that looked awful for his elbow. Gunner looked good in relief against Texas, but how do we evaluate Georgia right now, especially where you see look-ahead numbers with the Irish favored in the Sugar Bowl right now against the Bulldogs?
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult to say what the quarterback switch to Gunner Stockton, how it figures in the handicap, but I don't think it's, I didn't knock Georgia any. Gunner Stockton, he seems to have that mojo, seems to have that it factor, and can certainly run the ball better than Carson Beck. I think Carson Beck this year made 3 games with 3 interceptions. So I don't think it's really a drop-off at the quarterback position. I think it might be kind of an oddity number comes to fruition, even though, I've got a double-digit ticket on Notre Dame. You might be able to kind of get Georgia on the cheap there because I really don't see any drop-off with Georgia with Gunner Stockton at quarterback. In fact, they might even be energized. They seem to rally behind him in the second half last weekend against the Longhorns.
He's Paul Stone, college football handicapper, paulstonesports.org, Paul Stone Sports on Twitter, X, whatever we're calling it these days as well. One of the best college football handicappers in the business. Paul, pleasure as always. I'm sure we'll have you again before the trophy is lifted on January the 20th. Thanks for being with us this morning.
I love being on with you all. Have a great weekend and good luck this weekend.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Paul
Stone, everyone. All right, let's take a quick break. When we get back, we got 2 NBA Cup semifinals here in Vegas. Boy, talk about tickets being on sale. Knicks and Warriors don't get here, and no one seems to be interested in town all of a sudden. We get those 2 games, some college hoops, a bunch of hockey as well for the next half hour right here on Sports by the Book on a Saturday morning.
South Point is also proud to provide a variety of relaxing amenities for the guests who want to be pampered. Soak up the sun and let your stress melt away in our lagoon-style Paradise swimming pool. A relaxing getaway where you can bask in the desert sun and enjoy seasonal food and bar service poolside. And if you really want to escape, come to Spa Costa del Sur. From couple suites to a co-ed wet area, our spa caters to business and leisure travelers who want to unwind and elevate their senses. A visit to one of our spa's steam, sauna, or whirlpool treatment rooms will leave any guest feeling like they can take on the world. Our gaming amenities include over 60 table games and over 2,600 of the most popular slot and video poker machines. We have penny slots, including the popular Buffalo games, and real machines like Wheel of Fortune, 777s, and Megabucks. If you prefer video poker, try Deuces Wild, Double Double Bonus, or a variety of multi-denomination games. Or Try your hand at one of the most popular casino table games in the world, Blackjack. Don't let the game intimidate you. Blackjack, also known as 21, is both easy and fun. And our dealers are always happy to assist. And the best part? Blackjack always pays 3 to 2. Next, check out the roulette tables. Roulette is one of the easiest casino games to learn, and so much fun to play. It's a favorite of both beginners and seasoned players. In addition to blackjack and roulette, our casino pit features over 60 popular table games like Baccarat, Pai-Gow Poker, 3-Card Poker, Ultimate Texas Hold'em, and Mississippi Stud. So get out of your room and come join in the fun.
Back in Sports by the Book here on a Saturday morning. Jeff Parles, Alex White. Big thanks to Paul Stone. Always love talking with Paul. You know, it's, again, we'll have next week on the show with Alex and Kenny on Monday morning through Wednesday morning. Alex and Kenny are here at 9 a.m., so you guys will have a full look at everything college football playoff-wise on Football Frenzy at 3 o'clock on Monday, Thursday, and then 2 o'clock on Friday next week. Myself, Ryan McCormick, and then, of course, on Friday, Jimmy, Chris, Vinny, all the thoughts on the college football playoff. It's going to be a fascinating week because we've never seen this before. I'm very curious to see how these – is there a real – how big is the home field going to be?
That's a great question.
How big – I mean, look, all these lines are north of a touchdown. I definitely didn't expect that going into the year, but that's what we have for these 4 semifinal games these 4 round 1 games before the quarters and then, of course, the semis, which will be in Arlington and in Miami this year. All right, let's go to the NBA first. There's only 2 games on the board today because the NBA Cup gets rolling for the semifinals here in Las Vegas. The East portion of it, the Atlanta Hawks and the Milwaukee Bucks. As we all expected, the Hawks, who were I mean, look, the Hawks, the Atlanta Hawks were one of the long shots in the field. They were as high as 27-1 entering this week to win the NBA Cup. And they were one of the final 8 teams left. And here they are, we're taking on Milwaukee after the Hawks upset the Knicks at MSG earlier this week. The Bucks, I mean, Orlando was without their 2 best players, as they're going to be for a while with Banchero and Wagner hurt. And Milwaukee basically needed to play the full 48 in order to win that game. It's 4. There's some 3.5 in the market, and that's where it opened behind us. So we got a 3.5, 4 toggler. Total very high, 231.5 for this NBA Cup game. Alex, as I've told Ryan McCormick, if I make a pre-flop NBA game, he's allowed to smack me in the head. So we're going to keep that the case here. I'm looking in game. I'm seeing if I can get double digits at any point with either team, because if someone gets up, if Milwaukee's up 7-0 quickly, it's going to be 11.5 live. I want double digits one way or another live in this game. If it ends up being a beatdown, so be it.
Credit to the Hawks. I mean, all they do is beat good teams. I mean, they put themselves in a really good position. They beat Boston to get in here. Now, New York Knicks, who we expected to see them against the Bucks, a rematch from last year, and here Atlanta is. They're a tougher team to handicap. They're pretty average when it comes to their numbers. 14th offensively, 15th defensively. The Bucks, though, are playing really good basketball, and we've been waiting to see this with Doc Rivers getting that head coaching job there last year. And you know they have the firepower there with Giannis, of course, and he's having another outstanding season. So I would look at the Bucks here if you made me play a side. And great mention about the in-game, because 231.5, I would look to the over, but that's a high total. We're thinking these games are more like playoffs, and I'll get into that with the second game. But if I can get a better number, I would go over 220 or something here, because we know Atlanta is more defense than they are offense, and that's how they've been getting away with a lot of these wins. But got to make sure the pace is there. But, yeah, looking for a better number to go over.
I don't know if how much better we're going to get. I mean,
just if it's a slow or
I mean in game, in game, for sure. I get quick start, get like 239.5.
Yes.
Yeah, my brain went to pre-flop for whatever reason. I don't know why. By the way, total has been a huge mover here. 229.5 open, got as low as 227.5, and now bopped back up 2 points higher than the open. Again, These games are a little more formulaic because they're at least cup games.
Right.
At least now that we're into the Final Four, they should, in theory, have a playoff feel. But again, who really knows here? And also, again, these teams have been in Vegas now for 2 days. You never know. You never know how everyone's going to feel entering this one. All right, OKC host, as the 1 seed, taking on the Rockets, the 2 seed in the NBA Cup for the Western Conference. Thunder really put it on Dallas in the quarterfinal. And look, OKC was my pick before the season to win the NBA championship. I think they have a real shot to do the double here. 5.5-point favorites against the upstart Rockets, who had to get out of a 7-point hole in the last 2.5 minutes to beat Golden State, and got some exquisite help from the referees in that game to win that by a point. Alex, again, no pre-flop bet, but it looks like a pretty nice number on OKC, even though the initial action on the Rockets from 6 to 5.5.
I really do like this under, even at that low number at 216. Two really good defensive teams here, and that's how the Rockets have really gotten this far this year and are playing really good basketball. Right now, they're 4th defense efficiency, and on the flip side, Thunder number 1. Two really young teams, but you can see the experience, right, of even the Thunder being in the playoffs last year. It really showed up in that last game against Dallas. So would lean to them. But these two are 1-1 on the year. The Rockets won in Houston, 1916, December 1st. And then way back November 8th, the Thunder won that one by a pretty impressive margin. But a big thing for me is Chet Holmgren was in that game. He scored 29 and had 5 rebounds. They have adjusted without having him in, continue to win basketball games, but I don't know. I think that's a big drop off here with this matchup. So the Rockets might be able to hang around in this one, but I like the under. I think both defenses will definitely show up.
216 is about as low as you can get in an NBA total these days. So again, it's OKC. OKC's so long, like it's just so much length on that team. And the Rockets, look, if you haven't watched them a lot, like you said, they defend like crazy. And I know Ime Udoka left, ended up leaving Boston in controversial fashion. The guy can coach, and this Rocket team that, again, I don't think has Şengün and Jalen Green, really nice young players. Van Fleet has really become the big leader that team didn't have a year ago. Signed a big contract in the offseason. Look, this is a young team that is well on their way to being in the postseason and a chance to make mid-season noise here against the Thunder here today. All right, let's some quick hitters on some college hoops here, Alex. I know it's still so early in college hoops that you're still trying to get your numbers to exactly on where they need to be. But this is just such a loaded day in college hoops. And we begin in Indianapolis, where Texas A&M will take on Purdue. This is first of 2 games at the home of the Pacers here today, where teams from Indiana will welcome a few other teams onto the court there at Gamebridge. Purdue is a 2-point favorite right now. This is 2.5 on this one. 143.5 is the total. This is a weird game for one reason and one reason only, and this happens in December. Finals week across college means very limited games during the week, this week and next week. Neither of these teams have played since last weekend because of finals week. Purdue, last time out, after getting shellacked at Penn State, went home and beat a good Maryland team. And by the way, if you had Maryland plus the points in that game, as gross of a non-cover as you'll ever see, only covering for 39 minutes and 15 seconds, Alex, before they weren't, then you don't cover with Maryland in that game. A&M got a really nice win on a neutral against Texas Tech last week on Sunday. Now Purdue, yes, it's technically a neutral, but we know it's a Purdue home game in Indianapolis. I actually will lay it with the Boilers here. Now, the interesting thing here, you have a high-end offense still. No Edey, obviously, anymore. This is a Trey Kaufman-Wren and Braden Smith-led offense. Top 10 so far in the country this year. Texas A&M's defense right now, top 10 in the country, according to Ken Pom. But we know Wade Taylor, it feels like Wade Taylor's been in college now for 9 years, but we know, again, best player on the A&M side. But I'm gonna lean with a little bit of home court, even though it's technically not at Mackey. even though it's in Indianapolis. I'll lay the 2 with Purdue. I think that is the right side in this game, Alex.
I agree. I would go with Matt Painter's team here in Purdue at home. It just that's a pretty short price here. And I know A&M's defense has been really good, but you're right. Offensively, Purdue is by far the better team. So I think that's a short number here at home.
Real quick on this game that we'll go to in Atlanta, Auburn hosting, well, not hosting, but they'll have more fans than Ohio State. The whole market, except for behind us, just moved to 12.5. It's 13 now on Auburn behind us at the South Point. I don't have a play on this game. I just want to bring this up real quick, though, because Auburn is number 1 in my power ratings. They're number 1 in Ken Palm. They're also number 1 in my power ratings. Your only loss is a road game at Cameron Indoor. You really steamrolled through Maui when it was all said and done. They beat Houston. Remember, that was the day after that weird fight on the plane with 2 of their players also, and they beat Houston in the city of Houston as well. The SEC, Alex, it's early. There's a lot of movement to be done in my power rankings. This is, and again, I have not been doing really like full-on power rankings up until about 4 years ago now. The SEC at the current moment is the highest conference rating I've ever had.
Wow.
Which is kind of amazing, but the SEC has been unbelievable this year in non-conference. I'm not saying lay it, but I just wanted to throw that out there on this game. And Ohio State, after that nice win against Texas to open the year, really just has fallen off since that opening night win.
I mean, you were just talking about Maryland facing Purdue, and that was a very ugly loss for Ohio State, 83-59. Yes. But they did bounce back against Rutgers. That was a good win for them in conference. But there's nothing I can do in this one. I would lean to taking that 13. I do think that's a lot of points. I think Auburn should be more like 11 here at home, but it's not enough for me to jump in.
Let's go to Lawrence next, and this is just going to be a tolerance thing with Kansas hosting North Carolina State. Kansas has lost 2 straight games. Creighton got them, and then Mizzou got them. Back-to-back games. Look, regionally wise, obviously Kansas-Mizzou's a gigantic rivalry. And for Creighton, that was a big deal also winning that game. Obviously, Omaha, Lawrence not far off from each other. Now they welcome in a pretty average NC State team. And this is just a tolerance thing, Alex. If you're willing to lay this many points in a game between 2 power conference teams, this would be the time to do it. Just because this is such a good bounce back spot for Kansas off of both of those losses, which were both pure road games, keep in mind. Now they return home to the best, I'm going to be honest with you, the best home court advantage in North American sports for me, or field or ice, whatever you want to call it. There's no, Fog Allen Fieldhouse is the biggest home advantage anywhere. I would be willing to lay up to 16 in this game. Ooh. It's a ton of points. I get it. But I think Kansas rolls. This is just such a good bounce back spot for the Jayhawks here.
I kind of like this over 143.5. I think we can get some points. And if you're, as you're saying, with Kansas really wanting to show up in this one after 2 losses, I think we can get a lot of points. I think we can get just enough from NC State too to help push this over.
Old Pac-12 rivalry, now Big Ten versus Big 12, and they're playing this game in Phoenix today. UCLA, Arizona, Cats are 4. I think this is not enough. Now, Arizona's been wildly inconsistent this year, and they're 4-4 overall, Alex. Part of the inconsistency is that Caleb Love has been dreadful for the most part. Another guy who's felt like he's been in college for 12 years at this rate. I don't know what to make of this UCLA team. UCLA had that really awful loss to begin the year against the New Mexico team that has turned out to be fine. New Mexico was up double digit the whole game. They won that game by 8. Since then, UCLA has really played well. Didn't really played anyone, and then they went up to Eugene and beat Oregon on a buzzer beater at Bank 3 on Sunday. But I don't know. I thought Arizona should have came 6, even with their own inconsistencies. I actually laid 3.5 earlier with the Cats. I still think 4 is good with Arizona.
Pretty crazy to see under 150 for an Arizona game, too.
Yeah, right?
We know how fast they like to play. But looking at UCLA's numbers, they do want to play slow. So kind of contrast of styles here. And UCLA's defense has been really good. I mean, don't we have something where we got to take the unranked team at home?
Well, it's that works. I mean, in college football, that's almost, I don't want to say an auto, but it's pretty darn close. That's now after this year, we're pushing 68% on that, which is pretty ridiculous. But yeah, Arizona 4-point favorites. All right, we got to bring Vinny in right now because this next game, hey, put him in, coach, because this next game means everything. Hold on. Yeah, no buttons, right, Sean?
Hold on. No. Can you hear me now?
Okay, good. Vinny.
Tell me.
Louisville, Kentucky.
Good morning.
Louisville, Kentucky. We got it on the grass last week, on the bluegrass 2 weeks ago.
And now
we got it on the hardwood, where we know how much this rivalry is for basketball. I know North Carolina Duke gets all the pub and deservedly shut. So, and I know Mizzou fans will get mad at me, but they know I'm right. This is the best rivalry in college basketball. It's really not for argument here.
Battle of the bluegrass here.
And Vinny, Louisville's been battling some injuries.
Mm-hmm.
They really struggled earlier this week, needing the whole 40 to beat UTEP as a big favorite at home. Mm-hmm. Now they go to Rupp to take on a Kentucky team that has exceeded all expectations for them in the early season. And this is double digits. 10 in this one with a total of 159.5.
Well, it opened 12.
Yeah,
so they did take the Cardinals here. And by the way, speaking of injuries, Kentucky's got a couple of injuries themselves in the backcourt, which I don't know if anybody saw. Well, some folks did, but if you happen to see last week's game between Kentucky and Gonzaga,
Yes.
A tremendous game, and a tremendous game by the Cats. They were down, I think, 17 in that game.
Mm-hmm.
16 at the half, came back in the second half to tie it, had a chance to win it at the end of regulation without their point guard, and then suffered another injury to the backup point guard in that game. Win it in overtime at Gonzaga in a very great, one of the best games of the year so far.
Tremendous.
That said, the difference with this Kentucky team compared to, say, previous teams under John Calipari is that this is a more upper-class laden team in terms of the grades of these. Kentucky and Duke have been the predominant one-and-done schools in recent years, right? And that's not the case. Mark Pope has come in and done a terrific job. He's recruited players with a lot of game experience now. These are not freshmen. Typically Kentucky teams in recent years have had freshmen and sophomores. Now they've got more upperclassmen and playing a little. The other thing is Pope is not only adjusted to the roster, done a great job of coaching. The in-game coaching that he's done has been tremendous.
Yes.
Went to his own last week in the second half, and that was really something that contributed to the big comeback and then the victory over Gonzaga on the road. So, Louisville, I think Louisville's a bigger surprise this year so far than Kentucky, in my opinion. Points valuable here in a rivalry game, and that's why they've taken everything from 12 down to the 10. But there'll be some Kentucky money here. I think the Cats, have a little bit more depth, and they're going to need it in this one, and as they move forward until they can get their backcourt healed, which will probably take the better part of the winter, really.
Yeah, not 100% sure on Lamont Butler's status. Kentucky 10-point favorites in this one, and that super high total. But you watch these teams pace.
They don't mind getting up and down the court.
Not much of a shock there.
So,
I want to hit two more college hoops games before we get over to some play on the ice here today. The battle of two teams that are orange in Champaign today. I mean, there are just some unbelievable games on
really
this
good game, really good college basketball
slate today.
Yeah.
Number one Tennessee, who look, if you wanted to argue power rankings wise and you have them number one over Auburn, I can't really argue that.
No, they're right
at
up
this
there.
point. I think right now you have to say they're number one and number two power rankings wise. The polls have Tennessee at number one. This Illinois team, I know they're unranked by the pollsters. I have them in my top 15. I still think they're a really good basketball team. I actually took plus 110 money line last night on the Illini in this one, Vinny. I think this is a perfect spot to go against Tennessee in a brutal environment, as it always is, at that Assembly Hall in Champaign.
Yeah, Champaign is a tough place to play. I mean, listen, college basketball, the home court, I think means more overall than football, simply because of the confinement of the crowds, right? And a lot of the gym, and sometimes the smaller the venue, the more difficult, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
look at Cameron.
I mean, exactly, right? I mean, where the fans, the students are right on top of you. This is a tough spot here. Game open, pick 'em, and you can see support for Tennessee here. I do have them right behind Auburn, though, and I still have Auburn slightly ahead of them in my personal power ratings. But look, Illinois is playing terrific, and they do play very well at home. Another thing to look at here too is the outcome of this game. Let's say Illinois wins this game. Keep an eye on what you do with them betting wise the next game, because this will be a big emotional win for them too. So, so always in look ahead mode, right? From our perspective.
Spot, and now everything that Jeff just mentioned kept me off this game, but it would be a lean to Tennessee and keeping that win streak going. Their defense is so good.
Well, just watching them earlier in the week, because they played Miami and MSG, and that was one of the. So I had first half under. I had under 68.5 first half in that game, and midway through the first half, they're in the mid 40s, and I'm like, I'm done here.
Yeah,
no chance. Miami scored 2 points in the last 8 minutes of the first half, and I won relatively easily. Yeah, this defense is so good,
very good, stifling
on the Tennessee end. All right, one more basketball game I want to bring up, because at MSG here, Bulldogs and Huskies, the battle of dogs here.
Woof, woof.
In this one. They're betting Gonzaga right now. Vinny.
Yeah.
I know it opened 2.5 because the initial take was on UConn down to 1 on Gonzaga. Now it's coming back up the ladder. It's 2.5 here. And a bunch of threes just popped. I'll just say this. This is a UConn home game.
Oh, very much so.
At Madison Square Garden, this is a UConn home game.
No doubt.
And I know this is not the UConn team of the last 2 years. I get that. But if you're going to give me a plus price with UConn at Madison Square Garden, where I have these two teams pretty darn even in my rankings, even with the problems UConn had in Maui, I'm taking that 100 times out of 100, and Gonzaga beats me, so be it. I took money line here with UConn.
Yeah.
At plus one. You can
get a quarter now, right? Plus a quarter.
You can actually get plus 35 now.
Well, there you go.
At some shops. I took plus 30.
As the point spread goes up, the money line will correlate to it. So a terrific game here. This was always, growing up, we didn't have the Gonzagas and the UConns. But you always had great college games at Madison Square Garden, and you had a lot of times double headers. By the way, I remember NBA double headers at the Garden, so there's a little more dating too. And you'll hear Chris Andrews and Jimmy Vaccaro talk about college basketball double headers in great arenas back in the 60s and 70s. But this one is a good one too. Two teams. Listen, I think this UConn team. And Hurley, listen, I know he went ballistic over in Maui and lost some close games, but his team plays hard. They're extremely gritty. Gonzaga, this is the mantra, right? We'll play anybody, anywhere, anytime, and that's been Mark Few's style ever since he's gotten to Gonzaga. And so a terrific game here, and I have to tell you, that this is a game worth watching for several reasons. To obviously keep track of power ratings, Alex, which I know you're doing. Jeff, you have your ratings as well. But handicapping, right, to see how these teams are performing in these big games so far in advance of the NCAA tournament, right? You're going to be able to garner information. Now, I think UConn especially will be a very different team come March, but you want to look at how they perform, right? You want to look at their depth. You want to look at how they're handling really quality opposition and in venues that they're not used to, although UConn will have several games here at the Garden. But because once the tournament comes around, they're going to be in unfamiliar venues as well. So good game, and so far, some support for the Zags.
Great points, Vinny, because you don't want to over-adjust and you don't want to overreact.
Correct.
And Gonzaga definitely has had to be bumped up, right? They've
Yeah.
definitely looked better than I thought going into
Me too,
this year.
Alex, honestly, to be honest with you. I agree with you.
And then Kentucky, with Mark Pope, beat them in overtime. They've kind of had to go up, and they've exceeded. But I love that 2.5 points here with UConn. I'll be jumping in. I won't be jumping in money line with you, but I'll be jumping in on the dog here.
Look, it's a UConn home game.
Yeah.
And look, I already got burned on this once because Gonzaga played a game off campus in Spokane earlier this year against Baylor. I was like, I'm getting 6 points with Baylor. Great.
Yes.
Gonzaga beat them by 1 million in that game. So it just go back to what it really is, like a UConn home game. All right, before we get out of here today, let's hit a few hockey games here today. Alex, this game starts at 10 a.m. Pacific time, and I'm looking at the price of this one, and I'm like, oh boy, the Devils were almost $4 today against the Chicago Blackhawks.
Yeah.
With a total of 6. I have to imagine you're looking at the total in this game, right?
You are correct.
Okay.
Chicago is one of my favorite under teams this year, so getting 6, I think that's a great number. It could drop down to 5.5. If you look at Chicago, they're 30th in goals for and tied for 22nd in goals against. And then the Devils on the other side, they're 6th in goals against, 2.66. So I think we're going to have a low-scoring game, especially Chicago's coming off a very high-scoring game, so then I really like to back that under. Next one on the board is another under, if you want me just to fly through that one too.
Go for it.
The Kings and the Rangers, I know this is a 5.5, but I still like it. I made it 5, and you have 2 really good goalies here. And Shesterkin, shockingly, 10-10-1 record on the year, but he'll just continue to get better. We know what type of goalie he is. Still a 91 save percentage, and then you have Darcy Kemper on the other side. The Kings, really, though, it's their defensemen that have been holding it down for their defense. And, I mean, the goalies, too, have done their job, but really, really good on the defensive side.
Great hockey card today. Everybody but 2 teams.
Everybody but
all
2.
30 of the 32
30
teams
of 32
playing.
today.
Yeah.
And really, the headliner is actually the next game that we have, Alex, and that's a game we saw here in Vegas about 10 days ago, and that's the Knights heading up north of the border to take on the Oilers. The last meeting between these 2 teams was the bizarro one, where the Golden Knights and the Oilers played a 1-0 game with no penalty minutes, which is only the 4th time in NHL history that's even happened.
Right.
With a 1-0 0 penalty minute game. Total 6. Edmonton's $1.45 favorite in this one.
And I hope I'm not like overthinking this and, doing too much, but I did make it 6.5. I'm going to trust the numbers. I'm going to go with the opposite happening. We kind of did this with Edmonton in the playoffs too, right? When they went back home to Edmonton, faster ice there in Canada. So I'm going with that. I think over 6 is the play here between these 2, especially after that tough, brutal playoff 1-0 game that we just saw.
And I don't think Mark Stone was back yet for that game.
He was not.
So this Knights 4 in a row playing very well right now, as healthy as they've been all season. And the Oilers are on a heater. Remember how bad they started last year? Yep. And then they got on a roll. Well, they're playing real well right now. So.
Very impressive win the other night against Minnesota with Gustafsson in goal too, and Marc-Andre Fleury had to go in. So, both teams playing very good. Let's get some goals in this one.
Alex, keep it north of the border, Ottawa and Pittsburgh. 6 in this one. Penguins, a dog here at plus 115, $1.35 on Ottawa in this game.
Ottawa, the only team that is playing on a back-to-back because they played Carolina yesterday. So we are going with their backup goalie here because Ullmark is now their number 1, and he's been outstanding for them. So going back to Forsberg here, I like the over, even though it is 6.5. So it's a higher game, but the Penguins right now 32nd in goals allowed at 3.74 average per game.
And Ottawa scores. They don't play real good defense, but they do score.
They've been a fun surprise too.
Looking at another one here, Buffalo at Washington. The Capitals have held up all right without Ovechkin here. $1.80 on the Caps with a total of 6.
They really have, and he is skating already, so watch out for Washington.
That is very quick for his injury, broken fibula for Ovechkin. That was only 3 weeks ago now, right?
Yeah. I think it was longer than that.
Was it longer than that now?
Yeah.
Okay. It was not that long ago, though.
Well, yeah, but we remember this college football season goes fast.
That is true, Alex.
Maybe the biggest surprise of the season are the Caps.
Yes.
And I don't think it's any they're playing really good defense. Oh, and by the way, their
Logan
number one
Thompson.
their number one goalie is
Logan
Thompson now, and he's made a big difference. Of course, Logan Thompson here with the Knights for a number of years.
And I'm glad you said that, Vinny, because this was a lean to the over here, but both of these goalies are really good. I like Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen for the Sabres, too. So this is more just a talking point. If we needed to talk about another game, we're going to pass on this over. But
Okay, Flames and Florida then. Calgary welcomes the Panthers in.
Okay.
$1.75 on Florida with a total of 5.5 in this one.
I actually, not a huge bet, but I'm taking the Flames here at that plus money. I jumped in at plus 165. I think you're okay at that plus 155. Be careful. Watch out for the Panthers. I mean, they go on these crazy win streaks, and we know how good they are. We saw it last year, but they're not playing good defense right now. They're 24th in goals allowed. And you got Dustin Wolf, their number one goalie for Calgary. So that's another key point if you're going to back the Flames. I prefer him in net. So going with Dustin Wolf here in a good plus price on Calgary.
One last one, the last game of the night on the card. Tampa Bay goes to the Pacific Northwest to take on the Kraken. Action on the Kraken. Lightning opened minus 40. Now it's minus 125 on Tampa. Total 6. That just juiced. The juice just moved from $1.15 to $1.20 on the over.
I like the over too in this one. Both teams are playing good, Jeff, so I can't blame anybody for jumping in on plus money with the Kraken. But Tampa Bay looks really good, especially offensively. Number one in goals for per game, 3.96 average. So over for me at that 6.
A lot of fun stuff going on today.
Good stuff. Good
FCS
schedule.
Playoffs also underway with Incarnate Word and South Dakota State. That's
underway.
Vinny looks very cold in Brookings, South Dakota. Here today.
I don't know if it might be colder in the studio here. Although you got the shirt sleeve on. My goodness.
I feel pretty good today.
Good for
actually,
you.
I got my actually wore my jacket in today, which is a rarity. But
Got to keep the equipment cool.
yeah, so we're back in about 23 hours and 55 minutes from now. Alex and I will have the full workup of all the NFL games tomorrow. 13 tomorrow, and plus 2 on Monday night, so 15 more to go through. Vinny will be back in tomorrow. Yes.
Just remember, too, the Army-Navy game today.
Yeah. What do you?
Cadets and the middies, 6.5 right now, 39.5 on the total. So, any playoffs?
So,
Of course, Vinny.
Yeah.
No,
So
I'm taking the points.
So we
Points.
did this earlier.
Yeah.
It's been over a decade since the last time that the Army-Navy reached the 40s.
Yeah. Well,
2013 was the last time.
This will. You know what though? Both of these teams pass a little bit more this year than previous years. So, but it's gone back and forth the total. So good two-way action. Veran, two-way.
Two-way. All right. We'll see you again tomorrow right here. Alex, good work. Sean, Drew Dog, thank you. Vicenz, we'll see you in the middle of the show tomorrow to go through the whole behind-the-book perspective for those games tomorrow in the NFL. I'm Jeff Parles. Good luck, everyone. Hope we gave you at least a few winners here today, right on Sports by the Book.